r/AskReddit. People on stock photos, what's the weirdest way you've seen your photos being used? Late to this, but I was photographed at a Renaissance festival as a fairy. My mom signed a release form, and a couple years later accidentally found out I was the cover of that county's phone book. Kinda funny, I guess, especially since I don't live there. It's actually the only county in my state that doesn't have a member of my extended family in it. Still trying to get my hands on a copy. A friend of mine and a bunch of her friends had a dude hanging around taking pictures of them for about a week for some reason. Just them doing teen stuff. Fast forward a bit, my friend is on this school trip to Poland and is finding walls and posters spread across the entire country of herself. Fucking hilarious. Not me personally, but if I remember correctly, Jontron, the YouTuber, had a screenshot of one of his videos uploaded to a stock photos site, specifically, a screenshot of his Disney bootleg games video, where he pretends to hang himself while holding a copy of The Lion King in response to a bootleg NES game about The Lion King, where Simba hangs himself if you lose all of your lives. It ended up being used on various adverts and billboards by companies and organizations who were unaware about the original context of the image. Not sure if he did anything about it or if he even knew it became a stock photo without his permission. I modeled for some of the family shots when I was a kid. I went for a job I review about 10 years ago and saw one of my pictures in a frame on the desk of the person who interviewed me. I asked them about the picture, and they concocted a story about their parents and the fact that the shot was taken many years ago and the kid in the photo was actually them. I got the job and never said a word. Not a stock photo model, but a dating website I use to put my photo on an affiliated porn website pop-up. Horny singles near you type stuff. I still have the screenshots. Apparently in teensy tiny print, it says when you sign up that they can do whatever they want with your photos when it comes to ads. I mostly thought it was funny, but I lived in a relatively small area at the time, and people I knew saw those pop-ups. Luckily it never really came back to haunt me, but I did close my account there. Also, I know this is like 2 weeks late to the party, but what the hell? When I was like 7, my uncle, he was a wannabe photographer, made me modeling loads of really weird places and dressing up costumes, pirate, broccoli, chef, nurse, etc. And I was out at my local youth center. I'm now 24 and volunteer there with the kids, and there were pamphlets for some kind of child's therapy group, like a dramatherapy thing, with my face all over the front of it and a broccoli costume. I immigrated to Florida when I was 6 from Kenya, and when I was 13 I got into child modeling. One random shoot was a stock photo gig that had me talk on a cell phone while walking through a botanical garden. A year passes without a sight of my stock photos in use. Until one day when my grandmother in Nairobi sends me an ad for an East African cell phone service provider using my likeness in their promotions. I was on buses, in newspapers and plastered on the sides of buildings, all from a shoot I did in St. Petersburg, Florida, so far away from my home country of Kenya. Way back when Classmates was a new thing on computers, even before Facebook, they would advertise a site that would connect people from your old schools. They would show some random pics from a yearbook and then a caption like, "Is Dirk still a jerk?" Find out on Classmates. They would advertise in a lot of magazines, newspapers, as well as online. The thing was, it was my sophomore yearbook photo along with a couple of other kids from my homeroom in all the ads. My photo was always the first in the lineup. It was so strange to be in a doctor's office somewhere and to open a random magazine and to see yourself from 30 years before staring out from the pages. And it was a huge campaign, so it happened a lot. My university was testing out a new training series, similar to CrossFit but not the same. I joined and we signed waivers that said we could be part of advertising for the new series. I'm thinking, okay, well, there are 80 other people over multiple classes, so I'm fine. Nope. About 2 months after the shoot, I start get all these texts from friends about where they have seen photos of me doing a deadlift. They printed it full size and put it in the student center, on the outside of the gym, on pamphlets being handed out, on the gym's website, even had a month in the school's calendar. So finally they take it all down. I'm thinking I'm in the clear. Nope, they use another photo a year later of me doing a pull-up. This was used just as widely. I've been out of uni for 4 years, and they still circulate stock photos of me working out in advertising campaigns. It's not a person that was used, but a background I made that was intended to be used as stock as long as credit was given. I've gotten lots of requests to use them over the years, but the one that caught me by surprise was when 4inchNow used one of my backgrounds in a social media post without my permission. I've been considering just making more and putting them up on stock photo sites myself. It's already one of the first results on Google Images. God, this is actually relatable to me. I'm a 3rd degree black belt. I had a few pictures taken of me when I was about 14. I looked like a scrawny teen. I remember the photographer asking permission to use the photos for her husband's business. I said sure, not even asking what it was. Next thing I know, I'm sent the finished ad. Apparently her husband is a real estate agent. Shows a picture of an awkward 14-year-old in a fighting stance, with the caption, "If you move in here, you will be protected." I never followed up with the end result, but I'm sure the property never sold. Found. Not about stock photos, but a bit related. Friend's uncle was in the hospital after surgery, and local news film crew asked his permission to film him for a few minutes for a news video about this hospital. They filmed him with a doctor who was talking about some medical stuff. Later turned out it was an ad about new technologies in surgery used in this hospital, and he was used as a bad old surgery example with ugly scars on his body. My son is a model. He did a local ad for a cell carrier, and they made a full 6-foot cutout of him for the showrooms. I found out about it, so I stopped at one of the stores and asked for it. They had one on the back and gave it to me. I took it home and put it in his room and scared the crap out of him. The kids ended up using it for target practice for the air gun. Another time he shot a tool commercial, and I thought it was for TV cause he said it was a nationwide campaign. I couldn't find it until one day I was in Big Hardware. There it was playing in a screen. He had moved far away and I was missing him. I watched it a couple of times, but then I started to cry. I reverse image searched a picture taken of me while on patrol by an embedded journalist. In it I'm holding up my weapon and using the optic to check something out so it looks like I'm aiming. Turns out some Eastern European news site used a picture of me in their article about the army soldier that left his base in the middle of the night and killed 16 civilians. You can't make out my face in the picture, but I am forever linked to a heinous war crime in a small way. Not me, but a colleague of mine. He and his wife were given a bunch of outdoor gear to use for a climbing trip into a range in the Rockies. They were accompanied by a photographer, and they used the gear all week while he took photos of them being outdoorsy in it. They got to keep the gear in exchange for being used as models, and they were pretty happy with that. The photographer sold some of the photos to the outdoor company, and he got paid for those, and they got to be in a few gear magazines. You would think that was the end of the story, but the photographer also put the pictures up on a stock photo website and basically forgot about them. Some time later, the couple is driving up a mountain pass and they get stuck behind a slow RV. They start looking at the scenery on the RV and they start to guess where it is. Then it starts to look really familiar. Then they both realize exactly where it is and then notice that the people in the vehicle covering photo is them and their dog. Living in a tourist area, they continually see these Cruise America or similar RVs driving through town with them plastered all over them. They were one of the more popular RV wraps for several years, and they always had fun pointing them out to their friends. Photographer took a picture on the first day of college with me and my 2 friends. They quit within the first month. I spiraled in a depression for the rest of the year and transferred out because I got a job dependent on being in school. 2 years later, as a concussion was making it difficult for me to stay in school, the picture was used in recruiting material at the college. One guy's mother even worked for the college and obviously wasn't on the committee making those decisions. I was in the picture. I used to lead horseback riding trips in the Rockies. I had this Japanese man come on a ride once, and he took some photos of me on horseback. No big deal, lots of tourists did that. I found out at the end of the season that I was front and center on his tourist brochure selling horseback riding trips catering specifically to Japanese tourists. Apparently, he promised them that I would be their guide. That was weird. When I got married, we signed the line that allowed the photographer to sell the photos for commercial purposes, not thinking much of it. Unexpectedly unhealthy marriage lasted a long 3 months. Story for another post. And about 4 months after the split, a pic of us showed up on the front page of a prominent local magazine. This led to several people at work leaving, bringing it to my attention. Slightly embarrassing and mortifying at the time, but still found the humor in it. Not me, but a buddy of mine dated someone whose photo was used in picture frames. She hadn't mentioned this to my buddy, however. The two of them were in Macy's one day, and he turned to say something to her and realized behind her was a full wall of frames, all with her photo in it. She hadn't looked that way, and apparently his expression was of sheer terror. I had a very small modeling career in middle and high school. My first real photo shoot was for stock photos. The deal was around $100, and I signed the rights to the photos over to the photographer, but was able to add the photos to my portfolio. When I got the photos, I hated them. I was super nervous and looked uncomfortable in most of them. Needless to say, I was never called back to that photographer. At the end of high school, I had to decide if I was going to pursue modeling or go to college for teaching. I chose to be a teacher. Fast forward to 8 years later, one of my coworkers mentioned that the picture on the loading screen of the grading program looked like me. I never needed to use the program, being the special education co-teacher. Well, we pulled up the grad book and there it was, one of the awful stock photos I took. The photo was their logo and loading screen for several years. That company/program is used by school districts in over 70 countries. All of my surrounding counties also use it. I still find it funny that being a teacher is probably the only way I would have found out about it. Sorry for the long post, but that is my weird story about my claim to stock photo fame. Funny side story, my husband works at the same school, and for 3 years of entering grades he did not notice that picture was me. When we finally showed him, he said, "Oh, I did think you looked a lot alike." Thanks for listening and getting this far. I hope you all enjoyed, and remember to like and subscribe if you enjoyed.